Hello and welcome to Craft of the Draft, brought to you by getdrafted.com.au, Australia's #1 selection for local footy talent. Post your profile now. You can get challenged, get noticed, getdrafted.com.au. And what an episode we have today, going through our top 40 prospects for 2025, our September edition. There's plenty to unpack.
Absolutely stacked show. Yeah, we've got the 40. So that's an expanded list out from the 30 we had last month. And we'll go through some of the big movers and shapers of that list.
We are back in the Zero Hang studio. It's good to see you again, Jonty.
Yeah, likewise.
It's been 5 weeks. I've been on leave. Haven't been sick, but I did pick up the Doug bug. Dougie Cochran was one of the players I actually did get a good look at over the last 5 weeks while I didn't have much attention placed on footy. Yeah. But it was hard to not see his highlight reel popping up, playing for Central's senior side as well. Yeah. But there's so much that I've got to kind of get up to date on, and what better way to do it than our power rankings to start off September. Yeah. We've got a top 40 this month, something that you've put a lot of attention into, so I'm kind of keen to go through them. But before we get into the formalities, how have things been?
Yeah, really good. Plenty of things going on at this time of year with players, I guess, returning to their talent league clubs from school footy. And players have been able to really announce themselves. Obviously, it's a list of 40 now, this power rankings. So that means there's more players profiled. And it was quite tight, jostling for positions as well, given that there have been so many that have been around the mark that have really stepped up at the back end of the season. So it's been really good.
Yeah, there's plenty of action obviously coming up over the next few weeks. We'll focus on the power rankings today, but obviously we've had finals footy across the Sanford Waffle and Coates Talent League, and we've had some players even playing state league footy over the last few weeks that I'm still trying to catch up on. Aiden Schubert over the weekend being one of them, so to make his debut and kick a goal for Centrals was great. But let's focus on the power rankings for now, and we'll start at the top and we'll work our way down to 40. Because I think obviously that kind of top 5 to 10 mix has been pretty consistent for most of our rankings for this year, and I think since I've been away, the top spot has changed, and we now see Willem Dersma at #1.
Yeah, we do. He just finds ways to impress you in different ways. He's churning out best on ground performance after best on ground performance, and obviously he's got plenty of midfield opportunity, played off halfback and go forward and impact as well. Pretty tough on Cooper Duff Tytler falling away from that #1 spot, because what's been really impressive that he's done in the last month or so, Mitch, is he went to Essendon VFL, had a really good game there. But in particular, the fact that he's really impacting forward of the ball on the weekend, he kicked 2 goals, 5. He was a marking machine, took the 11 marks and took those marks in different ways. There were some big contested marks. There were some lead-up marks getting up the ground as well. So we know that he's like a fourth midfielder when he is in the ruck. But that forward presence is something that's really important if he's going to go right at the pointy end. And he's certainly right around that mark alongside Willem Dersma. And there's obviously some club-tied prospects as well.
Just on Dersma, obviously the power finished highest in the talent league outside of some of the academy teams who went through with good records, albeit shorter running games. Is there anything you want to see from Willem Dersma still? Like, is there anything that you think he's missed in his game at all this year that could potentially just kind of help that insurance towards the top of the draft board?
What I'd love to see him do is, and he's probably done it to some degree already, but when the game's sort of on the line, really stand up and win Gippsland a final, perform in Coates League finals would be the last sort of tick on his radar, given he's done it at the Under-18s National Championships, and he's done it for Gippsland all throughout the home and away season. But performing in a big final, we expect Gippsland to go deep. They've got a pretty good list. So, really putting the team on his back, and hopefully they allow him to, have a real free run in that midfield and lead the way. But, some of that on-field leadership stuff and, leading his team would be great. But it's hard to really pick any holes given how consistent he's been in so many different ways.
Yeah. So you mentioned Cooper Duff Tytler. He's at 3, and then the 3 guys in between to round out our top 5 are all academy boys. So Ezekiel at 2, Dill Patterson at 4, and Dan Annable at 5.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 6, a player who I think when I was last on the shows, we're talking 5 weeks ago, was probably around the top 10, maybe close to that top 10 mark. Now it's 6 on your power rankings. It's Carlton father's son, Harry Dean, who had a stellar under-18s championships with Vic Country and a really solid year to date with the Murray Bush Rangers. So he's firmly in the mix as a potential top 5 option for you.
Absolutely, and I think that's sort of where things sit at the moment as well. So that would mean 4 of the top 6 actually at the moment are all club tied. But there are some people who would say that he's a top 5 talent now based on how perfect his skill set is with his marking and the athleticism, and it really suits itself well. But yeah, if you want someone who is potentially going to play AFL next year as a key defender, you don't see that too often, because that's a position that you need to take some time developing. But we know Carlton obviously going to lose Jack Silvani, so he may get some early opportunities next year, and really it's just a matter of how high that bid comes. It'll definitely come on the first night. He's been sensational.
Yeah, it's going to be quite fascinating for them how they line up down back, because
Yep.
Jacob Williams is going to be the perfect role model for him.
Yep.
Also Harry O'Farrell and what we saw this year. You can see a lot
And
for
the
the
ACL injury. Yeah.
for the long term.
Yeah.
Those two are going to be a great partnership and
Absolutely.
going to learn a lot of Jacob Wiedering.
Yep.
At 7, Ollie Greaves.
Yep.
Easton have had a nice little run since I've been gone, and then plenty of other names we're going to mention on the show. But Ollie Greaves has been one who's looked to take on a bit of a new role in the home stretch.
Yeah, a little bit. So we've always known that he's got that ball winning acumen through the midfield. We've talked a lot about that this year, but the last couple of weeks spent a bit more time forward and proven a really hard matchup. He's obviously so big, so powerful, and he can take a mark. So that probably gives him a point of difference on some of the other big-bodied midfielders in this draft crop, and as well as his kicking. And I guess the forward side of things has probably been talked about quite a bit throughout the year, but we haven't necessarily seen it for extended periods until the last fortnight. And he's had 7 or 8 shots on goal. Unfortunately, the only thing that's let him down is goal kicking accuracy. But yeah, he's got a way of really commanding the footy and finding ways to hit the scoreboard.
We talked about role models before. You had obviously Josh Smiley to work with a little bit last year. And we saw what Josh did for Easton as a forward target at times.
Yeah.
And like you said, just using his brute strength and some clean kicking and goal smarts can be quite rare for a player who's known as an inside player and that frame. So that's a nice trait to have for a player like Ollie Greaves. Sam coming at 8, another player who's risen through our rankings across the course of the year, and player who's probably been the most talked about over there, over whether it's us talking or some of the our fans have been asking, what's the go with Dyson Sharp? We see some people might have him at 1 or 2, and we've kind of flirted a little bit maybe early in the year as a top 5 prospect, and as good as his national championships were, we even ended up kind of coming out of our top 10. He's back in there now at number 9. And I think what we knew for this part of the year was, after his champs, as good as he was, it was kind of what he might have been able to do with Central senior side that was really going to show his value as a ready-made talent. And obviously there's been a lot that you've liked to see him back in the top 10.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what it's been. It's the fact that he's been able to impact at senior footy. And I think as the year's gone on, we're probably starting to see a more rounded skill set from him than we'd previously seen. We've always known he's got that stoppage craft, but yeah, now he's starting to showcase that he's a bit more of a trustworthy kick, and he's able to have a bit more to his game. He can go forward, he can hit the scoreboard than just being that pure inside midfielder as a big body that the game's probably moving away from. But yeah, I think his last 3 games is averaging something along the lines of 30 disposals and 10 tackles. So it's pretty hard to overlook that playing at senior level. Dan Annable is going really well for Brisbane VFL as well, 25 disposals to lead that midfield into a VFL semi-final. But Dyson Sharp's form has been unparalleled at senior level for juniors this year, I would have thought. So, and he's a fixture in that team for Central Districts as well. He's not just sort of getting a couple of games here or there. He's really earning his spot, and rightly so. So, yeah, I've still got Ollie Greaves as the preferred big body midfielder. I think he still offers a bit more on the outside, and I know that's a view that deviates probably from the norm. But yeah, Dyson Sharp has had a very, very good month off the back of a strong national champs.
Next man I want to talk about is his teammate. We mentioned him just before, making his his first goal for Central Senior side in a final as well as Aidan Schubert. Had another one who had a stellar under 18s carnival in South Australia's undefeated 4-game run. He's one behind his partner in crime, Mitch Marsh, but he's someone that you want to talk about, Aidan Schubert.
Yeah, well, I just think that senior debut, firstly, is what warrants talking about. Debuting him in a final, like that shows a lot of trust from his side in the SANFL to go and do that. And then he delivered. Obviously, kicked that goal that you said, but he presented really well all game. And I think the other thing with Aidan Schubert that he's got over some of the other key forwards in this draft class, like someone like an Archie Ludowick, unfortunately been injured, but he's got the ability to be that relieving ruck as well. And he can take marks and sort of get you in different ways. He gets up the ground really well, offers an option long down the line. And we know he's a really, really important linchpin of any forward line he's a part of.
And one spot behind him, Oakley speedster Sam Grill.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really impressed me with Sam Grill since he got his opportunity for Richmond VFL is he seems to have added a real aggression to his game. We've always known he's got that smooth moving ability, he's got the athleticism, and he's quite clean by foot. But he took down Zeke Euland, as I talked about a couple of weeks ago, in a massive tackle in the VFL. And ever since then, I think there's been a couple of really big tackles or holding the ball type tackles. Every match he's played in, he had to play through a fair bit of soreness on the weekend down at a wet and soggy Mars Stadium, but yeah, still found ways to apply pressure. So I think that defensive side of his game in the midfield and that hunt has probably gone to another level and helped him rediscover some of that early season form after it was probably a little bit quieter in the middle of the year. The fact he was playing AGSV footy probably didn't help him either.
I'm just going to reel through some of these other names towards the end of our top 20. So Xavier Taylor and Lockie Doverston, those teammates out at Eastern, rounding out our top 15. Noah Higgins Hargreaves and Archie Ludowick at 16 and 17. Harley Barker at 18. And his South Australian teammate, Yevon Philippou, at 19, a player who would have to be, I'm just trying to look here, the top rated player who we didn't really see at the under 18s level.
Correct.
Obviously due to that broken arm. So what he's done on the bookends of that carnival, having missed it with Woodville West, has been enough to have him in your top 20.
Yeah, he's someone who seems to always get more disposals than what it shows on the stat sheet because he impacts so much with the footy. So he got the opportunity to play some senior footy in South Australia, was really influential in spurts, probably a little bit more spasmodically, then came back to under 18s level on the weekend, 25 disposals, 3 goals, 7 clearances. I think that was just the perfect showcase of his ability. He's someone who takes the game on, takes the direct route towards goals. He's really powerful and he can play in the midfield, but also has the, I guess, skill set and flexibility to really impact elsewhere, which is obviously where he's probably going to start his career, off a half forward flank or a wing, and we've seen him do that. So yeah, he's someone to get quite excited about because I think he offers a point of difference as a midfielder in this draft class with his fleet of foot.
And just to round out our top 20 is WH Jacob Farrow, who is a player I think, as well as he could be around this 20 end of first round mark, there could be a club in the top 10,
Absolutely.
top 5 that really likes the player that he is. So that is the top 20 of our September draft power rankings.
Hey guys, just dropping in to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by getdrafted.com.au, Australia's #1 selection for local footy talent. If you're a player looking for your next adventure, simply create a profile with your details and connect with a local club that's looking for a player like you. Getdrafted.com.au can set you up with a new club, new teammates, a new state, and even a new job. Talk about a game-changing career move. It's fast, easy, and built for your ultimate footy journey. Find your next club now at getdrafted.com.au.
All right, looking into the second half of our top 40 power rankings. At 21, we've got Adam Sway, 22, Matt Larray, and 23, Louis Emmett. But it's the guys at 24 and 25 that I want to talk about. 2 of Sydney's academy boys in Lockie Carmichael at 24, and behind him, Max King. I think consensus for most of the year, at least coming into the year, and what we've seen from Max King was that he was probably the headline act of the Swans' academy unit, and certainly given the upside that he possesses, still could be. But Lockie Carmichael, an MVP winning talent for the Allies this year, and a player who just played so consistently well in multiple roles, I think is deserving of the highest spot in the power rankings between the two. Yeah,
I agree. There has been, like you said, a consensus that Max King is the best of the 3 coming into the year with Noah Chamberlain. Harry Kyle's obviously added his name to the mix as well. But Lockie Carmichael's CV just seems to fly under the radar a little bit for me. He won Sydney Academy's under-16s MVP. He then was part of the AFL Academy earlier in the year, All-Australian honours, and was the Allies MVP as well. Like, there's few kids in the country that have got as strong a resume as what he does, and he can lock down, he can run and carry, but crucially, as you said, when he went into the midfield, he can win his own footy as well, get forward and impact the scoreboard. So I think if you're looking at upside, you can understand why Max King has been talked about so much, but probably just hasn't had the consistency this year. And to be honest, I didn't look at it as Lockie Carmichael's gone past Max King, but yeah, I guess it did end up being that one was at 24, one was at 25, and yeah, Max King's clearly got the athleticism and marking capabilities, but on form probably doesn't warrant a spot any higher than what he's at for mine, where Lockie Carmichael on form, was too compelling to put any lower.
Yeah, I think it's certainly not out of the question that I think King might get a bid earlier. On draft night, but I think you look at...
We know Sydney like holding clubs accountable, so taste their own medicine.
So I think what you can kind of look at is both of their championships form, and King was a bit quieter, but he had moments, particularly that match-winning goal against WA. But then you look at Lockie Carmichael and just go to the tape against Vic Country and the game that he put in, starting back and then moving into the middle in a close game. And I think really, and when we talk about this conversation that we're having, it's just Sydney can be really wrapped with the kids that are coming through at the moment. So that's big ticks for them. A couple more tied boys in Bo Adamsall out of the Gold Coast Academy and Zach McCarthy out of Collingwood's NGA. But number 28 is a player I'm so happy to see in these top 40s. I think we spoke about him after his first or his second game. He debuted for Eastern midway through the year and had some exciting performances after playing some senior footy at Roeville. And Sullivan Roby looks to have exploded since I've been away. Tell me what I've missed out on.
You've missed out on a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment. I think the game he played on Saturday was the best Coates Talent League game of the year. 40 disposals, 3 goals, and really, really capitalised on the midfield opportunity that he got for the Eastern Rangers. He got an opportunity for the Rangers, I think, in his second or third game to go through the midfield for a quarter. Had 4 centre bounce attendances and won 3 centre clearances. So we knew he had that capacity. But when you've got Ollie Greaves in there and some of the other players who were so reliable, he hasn't necessarily, he's had to sort of earn his stripes given he came in to the program late. But yeah, really took that opportunity with both hands. He's so powerful and just busts straight out the front of stoppage. He's got absolutely no fear and he's so strong as well. We know that with the fact he's played some Eastern League footy. But the big thing that's helped him, and the reason he wasn't previously on a Coates League list, it was initially overlooked by the Dandenong Stingrays, is because of size and strength, but he's grown 15 centimetres in the past couple of years. Clearly spent a bit of time in the gym as well, and he's just that perfect mix of traits that you want. 192 centimetres, can impact forward of the footy, can impact in the midfield, and I just look at it and think he's just custom made for AFL in 2026 and beyond.
Reminds me a bit of, and we're probably not quite at that point yet, but Ollie Hannaford last year and the kind of the build that he took from the midway mark, almost to the end of his year when GWV made the grand final. I remember Adrian Caruso speaking on draft night last year, and they were showing Adam Kingsley the tapes of Ollie Hannaford, and the GWS coaches said, "Yep, that's the exact type of player I want. Get him the second you can on the clock," and he ends up as a first round draft pick, and maybe that's what we could see with Sullivan when you talk about the size and what he's able to add and the versatility, which was obviously what had Hannaford standing out so much last year for the Rebels.
And credit to the Eastern Rangers as well. We're going to talk about Oscar Taylor in a second, who is one that's been with the program for the last couple of years, but they've got such a strong squad this year, but credit to them for looking outside the squad and bringing him in from Roeville, recognising the talent that he's got there. And he certainly hasn't let them down. Hopefully for his sake, Eastern are able to get over the top of Calder on the weekend and then GWV or Dandenong next week. So that gives him 3 more games to impress.
So let's get to the 30 mark. So Hassan Al-Ashkar's at 29 and St Kilda NGA Kai Fincher at 30. I think it was probably around a month ago that he made his Sandy debut and was playing in some midfield and was among some of the Zebras' best players. Yeah,
he was, and he's stayed in the midfield since as a result of how good he was on that day. So, he's probably always been seen as that really natural halfback who's able to cause turnovers and then really punish teams as that player with a lot of run and carry and that hybrid sort of option. But what he's become is someone who's got bona fide midfield traits. Like you said, he had, I think, 24 touches on VFL debut. And then going back to Sandy, he was able to show his athleticism in the midfield, his contested ball winning. And then when he got into space, he used it so well going inside 50. And it just adds another string to his bow because we know that halfback is a position that I guess you can find halfbacks, but someone who's got that natural midfield craft and that athleticism, and then also to impact when he's resting forward has been really, really impressive.
Yeah, some good size on him. So I think he's one that we could see in the St Kilda system under Ross Lyon quite quickly if he does head there in 2026.
Can take a big grab as well.
Sam Swadling at 31. Hugo Makunda at 32. A player that I think Craft the Draft's fallen in love with over the course of the year and what he was able to do for Vic Country. Reminds me of that Grind Myers type, crafty, lethal, just sitting outside 50, and he's a Geelong boy as well. That kind of helps too. But yeah, he's one of this year's big rises.
Yeah, he is. And I think the big thing that I've spoken about a couple of times with him is, that ball use going inside 50 is where the comparison to Brian Myers perhaps comes from. But people around him will talk about the fact that he's just got all this untapped athleticism that he probably hasn't necessarily shown as much this year for a couple of reasons. He had stress fractures earlier in the year, which sidelined him and maybe didn't get to show the speed and agility and endurance that he's got. But a very good year. Unfortunately, it has been cut short. He had a hamstring injury on the weekend in the second quarter against the Bendigo Pioneers, but has shown more than enough to suggest that he'll certainly get picked up, I think, at some stage. If not at the end of the first round, then certainly some stage in the second.
Yeah, is there any word on the severity of that? Like, will he be out of the combine?
Not at this
you
stage,
spoke
because,
about...
he's such a good athlete, isn't he? So you'd hope he'd be able to test, but at this stage, not sure.
All right, 33, Cam Nan, and at 34 is a player you mentioned before, Oscar Taylor. Now, we talk about Sullivan Roby, and a player I was probably a bit more across before I was on leave, but Oscar less so, and it seems like he plays a role that really has AFL this manager salivating if he can find a good one with some dash across halfback and through midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that really caught my eye is I watched a half of his game against the Western Jets, not the game on the weekend, their game the week before against the Western Jets at ground level at Werribee, and just the sizzle that comes off the footy when he kicks it is just unbelievable. He kicks it with more penetration and more sizzle than any of the other players on the field comfortably. So that's something that really, really stands out and gives him a real point of difference and flair off halfback. But the big area of his game that's really improved this year has been his one-on-one defense. He's able to really lock down, and I guess he builds that offense that he's started to really showcase more and more as he's developed his confidence off the back of really sturdy defense. So he's damaging a ground level, quite composed, and then when he gets into space and gets on a run, he's going to gain a lot of meters because that kick goes a fair way and tends to hit teammates on the chest.
Kobe Coulson just behind him at 35. 36, Blake Wood-Chambenier. One of those, I think that next line of SA boys, when we saw what they were able to do as a collective at the carnival, but I think you partner him with maybe a Louis Callaway or a Roberts Thompson and that kind of group who was so vital, probably didn't catch the headlines as much, but was so important in the system. Zane Parker's another one. Jet Darlitz, some of these boys that, as a collective, that was why they were so good. It wasn't just your Sharps, your Schuberts, your Marshes. And we mentioned Nair before at 33. And Blake was a player who obviously has tremendous leadership qualities in what he does over at North Adelaide. And he was another one for you who's a bit of a riser in your power rankings. 23 disposals, 2 goals and 6 clearances he had in a reserves game for the Roosters on the weekend, was named best on ground, and he's been playing all season through a shoulder injury, so he'll get surgery on that in the off season, and has still been fearlessly clean at stoppage, which is really impressive. It hasn't held him back, or it hasn't made him second guess himself. Certainly it doesn't appear that way to the naked eye, and he's got the ability to rest forward and be quite influential. So he's a player I really, really like, and he's just got great balance. So yes, he'll go into the midfield, I'm sure, at some stage, but that skill set lends itself to whether he starts off a winger, halfback, or a half forward. I think he could do any of those roles. So let's have a look at our last few names on our list. Max Kondo-Giannis at 37, Liam Heatherton at 38. Jeez, he's shaping as a potential bargain for clubs if that is the kind of mark he goes on.
We had him in the top 10 at the start of the year, and I maintain that he would have gone there had he played all year. Yeah,
obviously that back injury has played a part in his slide. So if clubs like what they saw and back his body in for the long haul, then there's a diamond in the rough. I don't know if you would even call it a diamond in the rough, but there's a star there who could be a bargain on draft night. 39, Jack Dalton, a player who seems to have really hit his straps, putting up good numbers and good performances in the first half, but second half of the year looks like a new Jack Dalton.
Oh, just unbelievable. Like, I don't think there's anyone in the talent league that's in as strong form as what Jack Dalton is, making up for lost time. Broken arm sidelined him in the first half of the season and has been so impressive since coming back. I remember back to a game he played on Friday night against Oakley. I think he had 35 disposals and was so clearly best on ground, and it just feels like every time he takes to the field, you know he's going to get best on ground. He's really seizing that midfield opportunity. We know he's got the running power, but I think we're starting to see quickly. Some other elements of his skill set, his pressure's really increased this year, probably known more so as a running player, able to get those outside possessions and really damage with his run and carry. But now when he's in the midfield, he can win his own footy. And crucially, if he's not winning the footy and his team's not winning the footy, then he's still able to impact defensively and run defensively. Just a very, very good player. 177 centimeters, and yeah, his character and leadership are also quite lauded down at the Dragons.
And at number 40 is Taylor Byrne, who player we know took his chances at the under 18s after being a later inclusion into that second game for Vic Country. So that's our top 40. Before we get into the guys who are just on the outskirts of breaking into our power rankings, and there's some big names in that. Just a quick breakdown of the amount of club tied prospects there are in our kind of order and the kind of nature that our top 40 takes. So obviously it's going to be quite a compromised draft, because on top of everything we've got here with the academy and father-son kids, there are the free agency compensation picks that will add to this order. But as we mentioned, 4 of the top 6 were club tied, and that's obviously going to be a big talking point on night one. But between Harry Dean, who we had at 6, and Adam Swade at 21, there were no club-tied players. So from 7 all the way through to 20, there is that big pool of clubs who don't have a specific name in mind that they'll have to match a bid for. That's the pool that will be quite critical on draft night, I feel. And then on top of that, then from Adam Swade at 21 all the way through to Kobe Coulson at 35, I think there are 8. So pretty much every second pick from our power rankings order, that is tied to a club. Most of them being academy boys, it looks like, with your Carmichaels, Kings, Swades, Adam Saul, McCarthy, Alashkar, Fincher. Who else did we have here? And then it was Coulson. And then the last few there weren't club tied at all. But some of the boys who just missed out on our top 40 are, and I think they've played a bit of a part in our rankings for most of the year. But they just miss out. And who do you kind of want to start with?
I want to start with the 2 Toms from the Western Jets. I did some maths when they were knocked out, had a 90-point loss to the Eastern Rangers. And firstly, credit to the Western Jets, because they've been able to unveil some talent this year with Oscar Ainsworth and Finnegan Davis, both playing some really strong footy. But I feel like Tom Burton and Tom McGuan, there's no doubt that they've sort of peaked and troughed in terms of what their reputation is, and the fact that both of them had quite a national championships didn't help them. But they've both played in only 4 wins this year, so it's not something you talk a whole lot about at Coates Talent League level or at Talent Pathway level. But across the AFL Academy, Tom Burton had 1 win there, and then he had 1 win for Vic Metro, and then he played in 2 of the Western Jets wins across the season, 2 of their 3 wins he played in. So yeah, and a lot of those defeats have been quite heavy, and he's still found a way to really lead the midfield week in and week out and put up unbelievable numbers. So I just think that's something worth remembering when you look at the value of someone. It's potentially a little bit easier, and this is to take nothing away from the form of someone like a Jack Dalton, but it's potentially a little bit easier for Jack Dalton to come in midway through the year and be really influential for the Sandringham Dragons as he has been. But for Tom Burton to put up those numbers week in and week out, and someone that's so invested from a leadership point of view in team success, it would be exceptionally difficult, but he's still found a way to, showcase that run, showcase that kicking ability, and he creates chaos with defenses as well. So he's someone that just misses out. And then Tom McGuan as well has shown real acumen playing on the wing in recent times. Obviously, we know he started in the midfield, but he's got some flexibility there as well, and he shapes as a potential bargain pick up for the Pies. So just worth touching on. 4 wins is not a lot.
I like that talking point. We've actually discussed this a little bit on the Hit Out on Zero Hangers YouTube channel about 2 prospects who might be the very, very similar in nature and skill and traits and attributes, and one plays in a really weak side. I think that, and what we've the Western Jets aren't quite the household name that the Sandringham Dragons and Oakley Chargers are, and you can stand out a little bit more, but you don't have that support around you. Whereas you can be a player for the Dragons and the Chargers, you can put up the exact same numbers, but it's because you've got a better system and better support around you. And it's really interesting how list managers weigh up who might actually be the better prospect long term with is it system based that they might struggle in, or is it just the fact that they don't have the support and they try and stand out in a side that might be on the lower hand in a midfield battle most weeks. So it's really worth considering, and it's certainly something that a lot of talent scouts will have in mind come draft night, and how they kind of compare a player like a Dalton and a McGuan or a Burton, and what they see as the overall benefit in the differing roles that they played. So that's certainly something to discuss, I think, a bit closer to the draft as well. A few WA boys, big name WA boys missed out as well.
Yeah, the South Freo pair of Fred Rodriguez and Toby Wan, a little bit unlucky. To miss out. Probably haven't had the compelling months of someone like a Dalton or a Byrne and Sean Benier, who were some of the names towards the end of that top 40, but wasn't able to fit either of those in, unfortunately. But yeah, they're right around the mark. Obviously, Fred Rodriguez won the WA MVP, and Toby Wan's got some really likable traits. Enjoyed having a chat to him last month. Check that out on zerohanger.com.au if you haven't already.
Yeah, Cody Curtin's another one as well. Probably just missed the 40.
Yep, misses out.
But certainly in a strong mix, and I think had a good enough year to catch the eye from a few clubs.
Yeah, definitely. And can play down back and play up forward.
Yep. Yeah, versatility would be a big tick for him. And a couple of Allies boys as well in Avery Thomas and Taj Murray.
Yeah, so Taj Murray's one, again, like I look at the body of work that Jack Dalton and some of these other players have got, and Taj Murray was one that just missed. We know his upside is like few others. We saw that in the first game he played for the Allies, but probably just hasn't done it consistently enough. So he just missed. Avery Thomas is one that hasn't probably been talked about a whole lot, but he is really athletic as a third tall marking defender, and I think he's got a lot of traits that should catch the eye. And Jai Murray's one that would probably be on this list if he didn't get injured. About 6 weeks into the season, he played very, very well for Gold Coast Academy. No doubt would have gone excellently, I think, for the Allies, but just misses as a result of injury. But yeah, I think Gold Coast will be getting a bargain with him should they choose to match a bid, which it sounds like they will. And
Jack Ison, a player who I think if he wasn't tied to a club, there'd be a lot more talk about him. He's just one of those type of players that he'll be at the Blues next year. You'd certainly assume, but if he was in the open pool, I think there's a lot more chatter about the type of player and how rare of the player I think he is compared to most others in this draft class.
Yeah, he's not too dissimilar to a Sullivan Roby for me. He had 30 disposals on the weekend. That was a really impressive performance actually for Oakley, probably best on ground. He was unlucky to miss, absolutely. And yeah, probably if this is a list of 41 or 42, then Jack sneaks in.
Yeah, before we conclude, obviously now that the home and away season's over, the first 10 picks are locked in. Say that very loosely, just given all the change that we're still expecting via free agency compo, match bids, and just a general trade period and what might occur over the next month and a half. But West Coast will hold pick one. It's very very unlikely that changes, and there's a good chance they have pick two. Then Richmond might have 2 and 3, and Eston have 4 and 5 currently. So we might have a bit on maybe how the top 10 might shape in the next couple of weeks. And then also we did wrap up our club by club draft profile analysis. So if you're an Eagles fan, a Cats fan, a Hawks fan, whatever, you can go back and find those on our YouTube channel if you want to have a bit more of a us talking exactly about your club, who you might pick up, what picks you have at your disposal, and how your draft night might unfold. But one club we haven't left out is the Tassie Devils, who we'll get to in the next couple of weeks. We might have a look at what their round one side, if all things going well and they play in 2028, who might be lining up for them from the obviously under 16s boys we've seen this year, from the Tassie boys in the AFL at the moment, and then on top of that, some of the big name AFL stars who are off contract at the end of 2027. So that might be a fun little exercise. And also in the coming weeks, we've got some finals footy to look forward to. Yeah, we do. The Sandringham Dragons taking on Oakley this week, so that'll be really, really fun. We know that's always fiercely contested. The Eastern Rangers have been really strong this year against the Calder Cannons. Good to see Felix Knight back, and we've got Cooper Duff-Tytler playing up forward, so plenty to keep an eye on there. Obviously, from an Eastern perspective, there's plenty who have emerged that we've talked about throughout the episode as well. And then you've got Gippsland, who are playing against the Geelong Falcons, who had a last gasp win last weekend. Willem Dersma will be the player on everyone's lips in that game. And then there is also the game between Dandenong and GWV. Noel Hibbins-Hargreaves has been in hot form in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Good to see him get some consistency. And Taylor Byrne will lead that GWV midfield. Fraser Mullen kicked 6 goals last week, so might be a bit of a dark horse to keep an eye on throughout the final series. Yeah, big prelim as well in the sample with I think it's Woolville, Western Sturt. I think it was a Jack Cook on on Monday night at the Magarey Medal, took out the under-18s
Yes.
best and fairest. So big credit to him for a great year, both in the SANFL and with SA. I think it was West Adelaide in the grand final for that.
Yep.
So that's really great to see for the Bloods, who I guess from the senior side aren't always there or thereabouts, but good junior cohort coming through, obviously led by Mitch Marsh. That might wrap us up for this week. We'll have plenty of finals footage to look forward to, as we mentioned. And stay tuned on our socials. Stay engaged, and we might even open up the mailbag next week to answer some of the rough questions.